Assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Fatma Wazir and today I am going to talk about a concept that is absolutely central to post-colonial theory, the concept of subaltern. The word subaltern simply means someone of inferior rank, but in critical theory, it carries a much deeper meaning. The Italian Marxist thinker Antonio Gramsci was the first to use this term in an academic context. He used it to describe those social groups who exist outside the structures of political power, like people who are dominated, silenced, and controlled by the ruling classes. Think about in this way, in every society there are people who hold power, who make laws, write history, control education, and shape culture. And then there are those who have no access to any of these institutions. Gramsci called these people subaltern, like peasants, workers, colonized communities, and other marginalized groups who exist at the margins of society, with no real voice in how the world around them is defined. Now, how do the powerful keep the powerless in their place? This is where Gramsci introduces another key concept, hegemony. Hegemony does not just mean ruling by force, it means ruling through culture, ideas, and beliefs. The dominant class controls what is considered normal, educated, civilized, or historical. They shape what stories get told, what values are taught in school, and whose version of events become the official record. As a result, the history of the dominant group becomes the official history of the entire nation. The experiences of the subaltern, their struggles, their resistance, their perspectives are either ignored, distorted, or simply left out. Here is the deeper problem. Subaltern groups often cannot even represent themselves. Their identities, their histories, their very voices are filtered through systems of power that they did not create and do not control. Let us now look at what actually defines a subaltern group. Here are some key structural characteristics that all subaltern communities share. First, they exist outside the dominant power structure. They do not control politics, education, media, and culture. Second, their histories are fragmented. Scholars like Ranajit Guha, Partha Chatterjee, Shahid Amin, and Gayan Pandey dedicated their work to recovering and retelling these hidden histories. They asked a simple but radical question. What does history look like when you tell it from the perspective of those at the bottom? Their answer changed the way historians and literary scholars approach texts, archives, and narratives, not just in South Asia, but across the world. Now come to perhaps the most famous and debated contribution to subaltern theory, G. Gayatri Chakravarti Spivak's essay, Can the Subaltern Speak? Spivak takes Gramsci's idea and pushes it even further. She argues that the subaltern faces a fundamental problem, even when they try to speak. Spivak's famous phrase, the subaltern cannot speak, does not mean that oppressed people are literally mute. It means their voices are not recognized, not heard, and not valued within dominant system of knowledge. Spivak also draws our attention to subaltern women, specifically women in colonized societies face double marginalization, both as colonized subjects and as women in patriarchal cultures. If we see in the literature, writers like Chinua Achebe, Toni Morrison, and Jean Rice, and in our own tradition, writers working in Urdu and regional languages have used literature precisely to give voice to those who have been pushed to the margins. They challenge the official story, they recover what was lost. To conclude, the concept of subaltern reminds us that history, literature, and culture are never neutral. They always reflect the interest of those who hold power. Our job as scholars of English is to read critically, to ask whose voice we hear and whose silence we must learn to listen to.